don't be ashamed of like the scars that you hold on your back, because there's no reason to be afraid of that. And then this whole scene right here when she's about to do this, and I might actually use this as like the opener, you guys, because over the next 13 days, I'm going to be doing videos around heavenly delusion, also known as tengoku daimakyou. I think I said that correctly. That's going to be the plan, as I want to do a review on each and every single episode, so you can either watch the episode prior to watching this review of the video, or maybe you've already watched this anime and you're just wanting to take my random dude on the internet's perspective on the series, because there's a lot of correlation with this series and a lot of other things that I believe have been going on. So basically, I'm just going to take some different lines within the episode and kind of see what I can hopefully inspire you to look at it in a different way than maybe you're looking at beforehand. So basically, it's interesting how when this anime starts open, this woman right here, one of these girls, like, it opens up with like a tomato farm and everything like that, which is pretty cool and chill. And everybody's just like happy, and it's like this dystopia basically, which I'm like, that's pretty neat. This guy right here, he's also going to become very important later in, I believe, episode 2 or 3 of this series. So you can subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on any videos like this. But this guy's going to be very important coming up. So it zooms into this girl, Mimahimi, I believe, and it's just like, she just says, we have a test today. And this is things that I've talked about on a couple of different videos that I've done in the past, where somehow she knew that, because when we press play on this, it's just like, what, today's just a normal class day. Like, this other kid's like, there's no way that we have a test. Like, that just doesn't have one. She's like, but we do have one. And as soon as they get in, it's just like the robot looking thing is like, get ready for the test. And all the kids are just like, they're freaking out. They're like, oh, wait, what? We weren't supposed to have a test. Like, they never said that. And that just kind of got me thinking how intuition, some people have a very fine-tuned sense of their own intuition. I myself have developed my intuition over the years to be able to see and hear things before they happen. Like a prime example, I was at the gym the other day, and one of my friends, out of the 3 people that we were talking with, one of them was just like standing around just talking about like what he wanted to do and where he wanted to go. And I still wanted to get like my workout set in and do my rep and things like that, but I didn't want to ask myself. So I just like thought in my head and like imagined like just having somebody else or somehow being like, hey, like do your set really quick. And then my other friend that was there, he ended up saying that exact same thing. He's like, hey man, can you do your set really quick? And I was like, yeah, I was just about to ask him that exact same thing. So like having an in-depth like intuition is very helpful. And if you look too here, I didn't even notice this until now, but like she has like a small, like it's a slight smirk. It's a subtle smirk, but it's a slight smirk because she knew that this was going to happen before it was going to happen. Whereas like everybody else, they were freaking out. They're like, wait, that's not right. That we can't be, like, we don't have a test. We never got prepared for that test. And everybody's like all upset over it, all these other things. And then like during the test, so we're going to get to him here in a second, but during the test, it's like he's playing, he has his little test line. And then there's this, it's right here, I believe. Okay. So not there. We're going to have to actually come back. So we'll come back to him here in a second. But so right here, this is what happens. And it's pretty cool. So like as he's scrolling down, beforehand though, so if we look at this, so right here, so if you see that there's a slight little glitch on his screen, maybe you've seen glitches in your own reality as well too, like maybe you've seen like a black cat walk across the way, or maybe you've had a deja vu moment, like you remember something happening but it doesn't seem like it's the exact way that it ended up happening. And you're like, wait, this seems kind of odd. Or maybe you have a memory, like you remember this memory over and over again as if it's a new memory, but like you can't seem to place your finger on where it happened. It's because the glitch ended up happening. Like it was a glitch in the matrix, in your mind, in society, whatever word that you want to use. It just glitched out for a brief second. And then when it did, all of a sudden you might get a word or a different image or something like that, because as he's scrolling down, it's just like, do you want to go to the outside? Do you want to go outside of the outside? And it's just like, wait, hold on. I don't understand what that means. And then it pans to these two, which is really cool to see how it's just like, okay, well, so clearly this is the outside of the outside. And this is where I'm going to give you just a small little thing. And I'm just going to touch on it just very briefly right now, but I'm going to touch on it more in the last episode of the series. Is I don't know if this is actually truly the outside of the outside. If you watch the series, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, then you can stay with like what I'm talking about to kind of learn a little bit more about what I will be going on in over the next couple of episodes. But I want to go back to this guy right here, where she's very intrigued with like this drawing that he did. And this drawing, I'm also going to let you know that this is also going to be important later in the series. It's probably going to be like episode 3 or 4 in the series that I'm doing right now. So just remember this fish. Remember the drawing, the hands of the fish. Remember how he drew this fish and how somehow something is connected here. You might not necessarily know what it is. And this is one of the things that I kind of like maybe had a gripe about with this anime was there's a lot of like unfinished loops. So it's like they would start a loop, but they wouldn't ever like finish it. It happens more throughout the series, but it's also a very good way because it got me to want to watch the whole series in a single night. Maybe that's what it did for you as well too, because like there's only 13 episodes. There's really not that many episodes, but it's just interesting how you go from like this picture perfect like dystopia down to like this apocalyptic like disaster. But like, is one really better than the other? Like some of you may be like, yeah, the picture perfect one is, but like the picture perfect, like everything is so rigid and like perfect. Whereas like when you come here, it's like not everything is going to be perfect. Like some things might be a little bit destroyed, but like this is where like the grand adventure happens, is like in the things that aren't perfect. And this is also something as well too that's going to start to come in later. It's just Flying Bird, but we'll touch on him a little bit later. This is the thing that keeps you hooked on episode 1, at least it did for me, and I have a feeling that it probably will for you as well too. Her character development too, I'm super excited to talk about her and what she has going on, because it's something that I am still kind of wrapping my head around a little bit, but it's still pretty fascinating to see like who she is and what she does and like how these things are. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Don't spoil it down in the comments, but like it's just really cool to see like what she has going on, which I find that pretty interesting. And like this relationship that these two have is, I like the relationship. It's a different type of relationship that I hadn't really realized or recognized beforehand, which was pretty neat. Like, it's just like, it's these small little things. Like, we don't need a lot to be happy. Like these two right now, I would say that they're probably way happier than the people that are in this dystopia right here, because they don't need much. All they need is themselves, the packs on their back, sleeping bags, and some light, which is pretty easy. And like the colorful, like just the overall art style that they have within this anime as well too, it's pretty neat. There's still bandits in the city as well too, which that's just like to be expected. You got to have some form of conflict or whatever it may be. The dude's actually like pretty sweet when it comes down to fighting. Like I was hoping that there's going to be some sort of fighting scenes, and it wasn't going to just be like this, like, I don't know, not necessarily a slice of life type of anime, but I just wanted something that was a little bit more like interesting and intriguing. So like him doing his fighting styles and like the little railgun thing that she has is pretty sweet. Kind of challenges and makes everybody get thinking of like, oh, well, what does she actually have? And I actually see this now. So like there's 4 different slots down here. If you get that, you know what that means. If not, I'll touch on that a little bit later as well too. But like they have power generators, they have all these different things. Like then it goes back to this other area. Some of these kids too, dude, like they have some really good talents. Like just this guy in general, like he just bounces off the cliff. He threw like the volleyball and he just like runs after it and he just catches it. And it's just like, all right, that's pretty impressive. Like he's got some pretty mad like reflexes. And then here he is again, he's still drawing. His drawing is such a crucial part to the anime, which I still don't necessarily understand how it works. If you guys have an idea when I get touched on that, like please let me know. He finally does ask like this old lady like what the outside of the outside is, which is pretty neat to be able to see like the emotions start welling up for her, because she's like, I just can't walk anymore, but homeboy's like super strong and able to do what he does best. So he's like, you know what, I'll just keep on holding like your pack and like you can just walk without it because I'm here to protect you. They end up going to this like little hostel within the anime as well too, and they end up talking like with the gatekeeper, and like you see this little boy back here, and I didn't think of anything in the first watch through, but like I'll touch on it here in a second. Actually it's not even in this episode. That's going to happen for the next episode, but I just like how a lot of these shows, they add in like these small little hidden details, which if you don't watch it or pay attention like through the first watch through, like it's not really going to make sense, because even right when they show up to the shop, like they're like, oh, this place is open, that's awesome. So like they end up going there first. Like I was a little hesitant like when I saw her, because she had like a sickle. I was like, oh, they're gonna like like, whatever ends up happening. But then I'm like, he's also like really strong and she's really strong as well too. So like nothing was going to end up happening. Plus like everybody, I like to believe, has more of like the benefit of the doubt. I also don't understand why money is still like a thing in this universe, because it's just like you think that they would have other things that are more like valuable than like dollars. But I guess like that's kind of the way that they do it. And then you see it goes back to her son, or this little kid that's on the shelf. Like if you aren't paying attention, it's just like, okay, well that doesn't make sense. Apparently AA batteries are also very valuable. She looks at the guest book because she's trying to find these two people, which I want to touch on him, but I'm not going to touch on him quite yet because that's for later episodes. But I do have my thoughts on that as well too. Same thing with the doctor. I do have some thoughts on him as well in some regards. So we're going to be touching on both of those people because they do come back up as the series progresses. This is pretty neat. Like I always love going into hot springs, dude. Like that's probably one of my favorite and most exciting places. Scars on a person's back typically can tell like what you have gone through, what has happened in your life. So like don't be ashamed of like the scars that you hold on your back, because there's no reason to be afraid of that. And then this whole scene right here when she's about to do this, and I might actually use this as like the opener, you guys, because I don't know if you've ever spent some time like just looking at yourself in the mirror, and maybe even like you've like kissed yourself or tried to kiss yourself in some way, shape, or form, and like you could be like, well, that's kind of weird, and like you could be embarrassed of it. But it's just like, I believe that the one person that you need to love the most is yourself. And if you don't love yourself, who are you going to love? Like who's going to be the one that's going to keep you happy, that's going to keep you excited, that's going to keep you moving forward? So I'm a big proponent and like, look at yourself in the mirror later tonight. It's things that I myself have done multiple times, and just like have a conversation with yourself. Just like ask, like, am I doing everything right? Is everything going correctly? Like how are things happening? Like in what ways do they need to happen in? And it's just a very unique perspective. And this right here, this scene could always give people a little bit of a weird feeling. It's like, oh, like, are they actually dating? Are they in a relationship? It's like, no, they're just good friends, or they could be in a relationship, but we don't know. It still goes back to this scene as well too. And she's making some dinner, and it's just like they talk about like the man eaters, and she's like, okay, well, this seems kind of weird. She thinks about like killing them because she grabs a knife. Like you can see that right here, which is a little bit dark, but I mean, what are you gonna do? And they're like, we can kill it because they've been able to kill other ones beforehand, which you come to find out because of she's calling her like little gun thing that we saw earlier, the Kuro beam, which is a pretty cool idea. But there's some symbolism here too, with like this pot boiling over, which I find a little bit interesting because it's just like she walks away and she knows that like if you turn on the heat for too long, something's going to boil over and something's going to make a mess. At least that's how I look at it, because like if you aren't paying attention to whatever you have going on in your life, there's going to be a spillover, and eventually something's going to go south. I don't know exactly what it was when I watched this the first time, but like going back through and making this video for you, I came to realize like, okay, there's something coming on. Like she just made dinner and you think that that's all it is. But what you're going to see in the next episode and of the series is that is not the case. It's not the case at all. The real case is that like you could tell, and I just knew like after she picked up the knife, and she says this thing too, because like earlier in the episode, so basically she says something to him that like, it's right. I'll go back and actually show you it. So it's like, got the wrong idea. Give me a break. I do all kinds of stuff in Tokyo. And it's just, I'm sort of like I received the request to travel with this guy's bodyguard during his travels. And it's just like, he is nothing to me beyond an object of my protection, which that to anybody would like, that would just hurt. That would sting. Like anybody saying that, where it's just like, you guys have spent so much time together and you're basically telling homeboy that he means nothing to you. It's just like, that would just hurt regardless of who he's coming from. And that's why it's just like, are you mad at me about something? Because when they end up going to bed, he ends up like pulling his futon somewhere else. And earlier in the episode, like when when they're sleeping here, like she's like, he says like, it's right, you're awake. And it's just like, I can never fall asleep. You're always fast asleep way before me. It's just like, really? I guess I'm a useless bodyguard then. And that's why it's a little weird. And I knew this as soon as it happened. Like at this point within the episode, where it's just like, as soon as he comes in here, if you paid attention, and there's always foreshadowing in these episodes, because like when you pay attention, like you can tell like things are typically going to happen because like they just happen. It's just like, geez, like, so today you fall asleep straight away. And it's just like, that seems a little odd. And then she's like, maybe may as well go to sleep then too. But like she's trips and stumbles and falls, which it seems odd as well too. And it's just like, wow, like, am I really that tired? It's like, no, you've been poisoned. And that's why it's like, even like she said, it feels strange. And then like you can see like it goes back to like the dinner dish and everything like that. And it's kind of interesting too. I didn't notice this, but like the housekeeper's dish is nice and clean, where the other two's are not like all that clean. Like they're still kind of messy, like there's something in there. But it goes back, and I didn't even notice this either. Like you see all the like the kids' toys like going through before, like, because kids' backpack, soccer ball, like toy set, cars, like dead flower as well too, like, and then you can see the little boy in the background as well. Like there's all this different symbolism that's going on within this episode, which is so cool. But like these are small little things that if you just watch it through the first time, you wouldn't pick up on it. But like the more that you watch it, the more that you observe it, you see that there is some symbolism, because like the flowers wilting and dying, it's just like, okay, well, that's kind of not great, but it's okay. Like it's still alive, it's still there, but it's not great. And then it goes in and it pans over to her loading up the shotgun, and then it comes into the beast coming down to greet her, the man-eater coming down to greet her. And then it goes back to her, this old lady. It's just like, is there an outside beyond this one? And there's an outside beyond here. And she's like, the guy's like, wait, what? That's weird. However, this filthy world is a hell, and it's really not. But like this little creature, it's pretty neat, like how you see this, and it's just like, oh, okay. And then after watching this episode, I was like, all right, I'm hooked. And I was just going to watch like one more episode, and then all of a sudden we ended up watching like 15 more episodes, or I guess the other 12. But that's my little review of this series. There's lots of things that I can go into more, but I don't want to make this video longer than it needs to be. So with that being said, you can subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you in tomorrow's video for episode 2 of Heavenly Delusion, or Tengoku Daimakyou. Thank you for watching. Trying things a little bit different, you guys, as well too. So if you do like this, let me know down in the comments and make adjustments accordingly. Appreciate you watching.